Time I got back.
Well, it's good. No,
Is it basically also to whiskey?
whiskey. The whiskey will be the chametz for the night.
Here, this is fantastic.
This is basically
No, the alpha is it not?
also left the flag. It's made out of grain.
Well, I should watch some. Oh,
Yes. This is beef.
Something
Oh,
like this.
yeah, tequila is made from plant. But this stuff is vodka. This stuff is made out of.
Vodka is not.
Yeah, they make it from grain these days. They,
I get the picture of the share, my man.
they don't make it from potato. Okay, let's go. We still have to see him.
My friends asked, like, what time is the scene? I said, you can't ask a question like that. I can give an approximate, like, half hour.
Okay, good.
I think Mayor's coming.
I'm going back a few little bit, even though we're in the parsha of Emor.
Give me like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Even though we're in the parsha of Emor, it's still talking about Koyanim. It's still talking about the Koyanim, and in the week of Achanimois was Pesach, whatever. It was a nice sich, and I want to cover it. It's a short Rashi. It's short and sweet and to the point. It's very nice, and I'd like to get straight into it. Pasuk says, after it talks all about the Avodah Yom Kippur, and most of Parshas Achanimois is all about the Avodah Yom Kippur. At the end, there's a conclusion with one pasuk. It says, this day is going to be a chukas olam. It'll forgive for all the Jewish sins. That's really Yom Kippur forgives in all the sins of the Jewish people. It's a special thing. Yom Kippur forgives in all the sins. Achas b'shana. Vayas kasher tziva Hashem es Moshe. And he did like Hashem said to Moshe. Seemingly a very simple passage.
Any way also there and said the word focus.
Yeah, a few times since Chukas. Yeah. It's very strong lashon. Yes. The Gemara has a drash from this. Chukas. I remember what it was. There's a Psagzei Shav over here. Rashi says, "Vayaska shetzivak shegiva Yom Kippurim osaka seiderazeh." When Yom Kippur came, he did this. Ulahagit shvachish shel Aaron, and to tell me the beauty of Aaron, shaloi hoya loivshen legdulase. He didn't put on the fancy clothing for his gedula. Elakamekayim says Amela. You would think he put on the fancy clothing. You know how much expense was to make the clothing of Aaron HaKohen? In today's dollars, I'm not sure. It'd be a few $100,000 probably. The amount of gold, just the amount of gold, and the stones.
He had fancier than any king, no?
Yeah. So you would think.
No. That one of the stone fell, and
they went to the goy, and one stone was so expensive. So you see.
What?
That they went to this guy and he didn't want to wake up his father and he had kibbutz of Aim and
similar to the
Benesina.
Yeah, it was similar story to the the Paraduma, no?
Yeah, that's the same story. Benesina. He didn't want to sell them. That's why the Eibishter gave him a schus and he had a Paraduma and he sold it to them.
But my point is that one stone fell and they paid so much money for one stone. How much costs
all 12 stones?
So yeah. The Chumash or a Medrash?
It's a Gemara. The story of them is a Gemara in Kiddushin.
Isn't there a medrash that every Jew that left Mitzrayim had 300 animals loaded with keys to storehouses?
It didn't say keys, that they were loaded of good stuff. And all that good stuff went into the donations they gave for the Mishkan. And one of the really expensive items was to make the Begodim of Aaron. The Begodim of Aaron, like I said, in today's money, I don't know, maybe in the millions even.
And also the time and effort.
Time and effort, right? The workmanship has to be incredible amount of workmanship. Okay, so Rashi says, seemingly he's saying two separate things. Hashem. Number one, Kippurim Asakazedazeh. Number two, Lahagit Shvachah Shalan and Shaloi Loif Shalagdulasi. Let's see what the Ramban says.
I'm thinking how we're cleaning it.
Huh? How to clean it up. It's probably
How do you clean an atara?
The Begodim had every six things. They had a thing of gold. It was very, very okay. Rashi has his pshat, and the Ramban says, Out of everything that he was told, when this is a kol yom of beis la paraychas, his whole life he was careful not to go into behind the paraychas. Zelose v'yom kippurim. Besides Yom Kippurim, also b'Yom Kippurim karbonosav, he did Yom Kippur all the karbonos kashetziv Hashem es Moshe. What is the Ramban saying, B'chal? What is Rashi saying? Like what is B'chal saying? Shegir Yom Kippurim osaka say there's. I mean, obviously. I mean, this is we just finished learning the whole part. This year we said Parshas Acharamos twice. Those are learning Chumash and Rashi. Hitas we did twice Parshas Acharamos. The line shear of the Parsha, because we on Shabbos Cholamoyed Pesach we don't read Parshas Acharamos. So before the Shabbos Hagodol we read Shmini, and then we read the Chitas from the Sunday before Pesach, the Chumash of Achrei Mos, and then second time. This year we did twice the Achrei Mos. Line share Achrei Mos is the story of Yom Kippur, how the Kohen Gadol is supposed to do. We know, every child knows that the avodah of Yom Kippur is on Yom Kippur. We need the last Rashi in the story of Achrei Mos to tell it to us. Sifsecham says Shagi Yom Kippurim. Lo miyad achat tzava also came. You shouldn't think right when God gave the commandment, He did so. Sharei misoshan shel bnei Aaron hoya b'yom ches lamiluyim. When did the story of Achrei Mos happen? Achrei Mos shnei bnei Aaron bekorvosam lifnei Hashem v'yemusu. Nadav Avihu went too close and they got burnt and they died. When did it happen that they got so close and they died? No, it was B'yom Hashmini Limeluyim, which is Rosh Chodesh Nisan. And the next day, Vayihi Achrei Mos Shnei Bnei Aaron, Vayomer Hashem Moshe, the Eibishter said Achrei Mos Shnei Bnei Aaron Bekarvos V'nei Shemos Daber Al Aaron Achicha Vayover B'Cholei Sel HaKodesh. So that must have happened Beis Nisan, Gimel Nisan. So this whole story of Avodas Yom Kippur was told 6 months before, and the pasuk finishes, and the pasuk the Vayaska Shertziv Hashem es Moshe. One person might think, like the Chassam Sofer Taka says, a shot like this, that on that day he did the avodah of Yom Kippur, Yom Shmini Ala Miluyim, which is weird. Come on. So, but so that's what Rashi's saying. Let's read it again as if it's come. Lo miyad achat tzava osakim shel mitzoshen shebnei Aaron hoy b'yom ches v'neluyim. Mustama tzava miyad kedei shelo yovel hamikdash u'shmini lemeluyim b'reish chodesh Nisan. Kamo shebi b'pirish Rashi b'reish Parshas Shmini v'eichos Aaron kasher tziva Moshe v'lo tziva kadosh baruch hu dafke b'yom Kippur. Pirish kshigia. That's what Rashi said. No, don't think that he did it that day on Rosh Chodesh Nisan. He did it 6 months later, on the 10th day of Tishrei. Rabbi Eliyahu Mizrahi says a similar thing. Vayaska Shetziv Hashem es Moshe Ki Yom Kippurim Pirish Lo B'yom Shenitztava Miyad. Then al Mochiris Rosh Chodesh Nisan Shemeisu Boi Bonav the Mashmeh Ma'achrei Moshe Shnei Bnei Aaron Sh'af B'Shechol Mokim Shenemer Achrei Muflag Lo Yaflog Kazois Yoisem Yom Yomayim. Achrei. What means Achrei? After Rosh Chodesh Nisan. After means 1 day after, 2 days after, but not 6 months after. Livi Asvara Shnei Loi Bo Lahazir Aaron Ba'al Yove Elam Pnei Shabeisu Shnei Bonav Bekorvosam Lifnei Hashem Shelo Yomuz Gamu K'Moshe Meisu Bonav. The Eibishter said, be careful, he shouldn't die like his sons died. So you think the Eibishter waited 6 months to give him that command? No. Rosh Chodesh Nisan, his sons died. On that day, the next day, 2 days later, 3 days later, Achrei Moshe Bnei Aaron, the Eibishter said, Al Yove B'Cholei Sel HaKodesh, and he gave him a whole thing of how to do the avodah on Yom Kippur. So one might think, but still, like, why would someone think that, and when he got the commandment of avodah Yom Kippur, that he should do it on Yom Kippur, that he didn't do it on Yom Kippur, that he did it on Gimel Nisan? It's like weird. Why would someone even think such a thing?
Why wouldn't he give him time to get over before you criticize?
Give him a week. But you don't give him 6 months. It's dangerous. The guy's son ate poison, he died.
Yeah.
Let him finish his grief. In a year, I'll tell him that this is poison. Man, guy could die himself. But tell him it's poison.
If he was told,
give him a week.
You could ask the other way around. You could say, why is he told so far away?
That's what he said. That's what the Mefarshim are saying.
No,
the Rosh Chodesh Nisan, his sons died.
Right.
So maybe the Eibishter gave him 12 hours for
let's say, but then you could ask the question the other way around. You'd say, why is he telling him so far ahead of the date that it's going to be applicable to?
So that's a good question. That's a good question. But the question, the question is here. The reason why I told him so much days before it's applicable is because the Eibishter wanted to tell it in a package deal. He said, "Al Yoveh b'cholei sel hakodesh." You're not allowed to every time go in. Just on Yom Kippur, and I'll tell you while I'm telling you this, I'm going to tell you the whole avoid of Yom Kippur. So
you're saying the sooner he would have told him, the more he would have had this.
yeah, because he didn't. The Eibishter could have said, "Okay, don't go into the Kodesh HaKadoshim till further notice." 6 months later, he'll say, "Oh, by the way, on Yom Kippur, no, the Eibishter said, don't go in any time, but I'll tell you when you should go in and how you should go in and what you should do." And while the Eibishter was at it, the Eibishter told him,
show that Aaron wouldn't do it of his own intelligence.
but it's like, why would a kid think? Rashi has to. It's true that it's a chidush, that it's interesting. Vayaska shetziv Hashem es Moshe, because this really happened on a Chodesh Nisan, a Beis Nisan, Gimel Nisan. But why would you think that it was that he didn't listen and that he did it earlier, not on Yom Kippur?
This was the first Yom Kippur after the two sons died.
Yeah,
It was the first,
they died on a Chodesh Nisan.
right? And
Yeah, Mashmini
6 months
Libeluim.
later.
Let's talk. They went out of Mitzrayim. Yeah, they got the Torah. They went out of Mitzrayim on the first night of Pesach.
right,
Shvisha Pesach was Kriyas Yamsuf.
right.
49 days later, they got the Torah.
Sure, right.
Moshe went up on the mountain 40 days, 40 days, 40 days. He came down on Yom Kippur, v'salachti kedvarecha. That's then on Yom Kippur, he comes down and he tells them to build a Mishkan. It took them 6 months till they got the whole Mishkan put together.
But they made Yom Kippur that
No.
year?
No,
They
that year,
Was no Yom Kippur.
he just came down the mountain.
And you-
He said, Salachti kedvarecha. He told them to build the Mishkan. All winter they were building the Mishkan. Then they put it together. The last 8 days of Adar, Rosh Chodesh Nisan was Yom Hashmini L'Miluim.
And then
So
they
the 8th day, that's when Nadav Avihu died. Achri Mois, the Eibishter told them about, you should know, don't just walk in anytime. It's dangerous. You walk in once a year in Yom
I gave
Kippur,
you- I
and
gave
I'll
you
tell
my-
you exactly how to do it.
All the direction.
Everything from Pashas Achri Mois until Bamidbar happened in 30 days. How do I know that? Because we say the next few weeks we're going to have Achri Mois Kedoshim Emor Bahar B'Chukoisai Chazak Chazak V'Nis Chazak, and then we start reading Bamidbar, and there were Bamidbar. The Eibishter spoke Bashana Shenis B'Chodesh Hasheni B'Echad LaChodesh. So everything that's happening basically in Vayikra
Had to happen before
happened, right. Yom Hashmini, Tzav Shmini. Basically, the whole Vayikra, the whole book of Vayikra is happening from Rosh Chodesh Nisan to Rosh Chodesh Iyar, 1 month. It's interesting that our custom that today all Jews do, that we read the Torah in a year, and we start on Shabbos Bereshis and we finish on Samchas Torah. It ends up that we read Vayikra always in the month of Nisan. Somewhere in Adar, we start Vayikra, but we're always reading Vayikra about the time when the Eibush all Tzav Shmini, right? Tzav Shmini, Achri Mois Kedoshim Emor Bahar B'Chukoisei was all said in these 30 days. It's amazing. All this part of Torah was said in this 30 days. So let's read a little more. This is in the Sifrei in Torah's Kohanim. What does it say Vayas? What's the pasuk saying? Any other mitzvah that Aaron got, that the Jews get, they didn't do. Obviously, every mitzvah they were told they did. Every time it says Vayas, Chazal always have a drash. The Pashas B'Shalach L'Ksiv Dabra B'nei Yisrael V'Yeshuva V'Yachnu L'Hagit Shvachim Shesham L'Koil Moshe V'Lo Yamru Ha'ich Neskara V'El Redfeinu. They said Ein Lonu Ela Divrei Ben Amram. When the Eibishter told them that they should walk, when Pari was running after them, the Eibishter said they should walk towards him. So the pasuk says Vayas. They did like the Eibishter said, because I'll say it was the people are chasing to kill you. Why are you walking towards them? The Eibishter said they listened. Vayas וגם בשיבס ימי אלוהים דקציב, ויעש אהרון לבניו כל הדברים וגוימר להגיד שבחים שלא היטו ימינו שמאל. Because it's complicated avoida, they want to tell you that they listened, they didn't do one hair breadth off. Pashas boy al parik vayelchu vayasu b'nei Yisrael kasher tziv Hashem es Moshe. When Moshe told them how to make the korban pesach, it says vayelchu vayasu. Chazal say, what does it mean vayelchu vayasu? Kein also lahem lahagit sha'oisim v'naisim hem she'echem hem lo yikiv. Rashi says a little different. Vayelchu vayasu, Rashi says, is that he told Moshe Rabbeinu told them on Rosh Chodesh Nisan that they should bring the korban pesach, but he didn't tell them to do it on Rosh Chodesh Nisan. When were they supposed to take the korban pesach?
Shabbos.
Shabbos Agorul, but also Chodesh. So why does the pasuk say Vayelchu Vayasu? They went and they did, but it's 10 days too early. Rashi says that because the Jews heard it and they decided we're going to do it, the Eibishter considered it as if they already did it. That they said, we're doing it. So Ma'al of Akosov, the Eibishter considered as if they already did it, even though they didn't do it yet. Shavak Amaisir.
It's like the first example of Lachatchila Riba connected to the Tzaddik Moshe Rabbeinu.
Yeah, Lachatchila Riba, exactly. They said, we're doing it. Aval Pashas Balois Gaba Vayasas Pesach. Oidor Sheklum. Pasha Balois it says Vayasus Pesach. Chazal didn't darshan anything. Nesha Som Chalmasha Dorsha Pesach Hatzme Pashas Boy. Because you don't have to say twice. Well, because it's considered as if they did it. Aval Pashas Koilach Teksiv Vayas Moshe Kasher Tziva Oiso Kain Osa. Loi Dorsha Klum V'Lo Yadati Lomi. I don't know why. There's a Sichos from the Rebbe Pashas Tzav Tavshin Chav Hey. The Rebbe goes through all, like there's a dozen times in the Torah where it says Tzav. The Rebbe goes through every one of them. Now we'll talk a little bit in the Sikha about this. The Rebbe says, because it doesn't make sense to say the same drash all 12 times. So to say it 613 times, say every mitzvah. So therefore it has to be that each time it means something else. And the 2-3 times where Rashi says nothing, because the pshat is obvious, and the Rebbe explains why it's obvious. So he answers the questions all the of Rebbe Eliyahu Mizrahi. Anyway, the Orach Chaim says, "Vayaska shetzivas Hashem." Chazal omru ki hakosov yichaven lahagit shvochah shalarim shelo yosa legdula lisnasa. Also hakoil kai mitzvah Hashem. He did everything to do mitzvah Hashem. V'niri ki gam shvochah shel Moshe yagid sheHashem lo diber im Aaron eli Moshe v'atoyre miida shelo nishtana hadiber letzad hamtzoi. That nothing changed. You know, there's broken telephone. The Eibishter said to Moshe, Moshe said to Aaron, something gets lost in the translation. Torah says no. Everything was done b'diuk. The whole amadatcha shadvorim anamonim lidmi Moshe. Noi loy noilad v'hamishtanas afilu b'chelik mi shishim emechut asayda. Even 1/60th of a here wasn't changed. He did exactamento. V'zeh binyan av l'Torahseinu hakadosh shekula himoitze pi Hashem yichli adam. We should know everything in the Torah is exact. The Chutta side, everything in the Torah, nothing is, little
Approximately.
Nothing is approximate. Everything in the Torah is exactamento. Okay.
What was all the language that they spoke? Lashon HaKodesh, Hashem told Moshe,
Obviously
There's
Lashon Kodesh.
things they didn't change in
Yeah, exactly.
Was no other language? What other language?
No, Yiddish maybe, a little bit Yiddish.
Yeah, it was Egyptian there with other people. And other
The
languages.
Egyptians spoke Ladino.
They just came from Egypt. Most of them spoke Hebrew.
No. Like he said. No.
I can't speak now.
This was later on.
No.
Not
that was
in
Mitzrayim.
Bamidbar Rosh Yinu. But
No,
in Eretz
Mitzrayim.
Mitzrayim,
And it's Mitzrayim. It says Malamed Shalosha.
That was the whole
Shema.
Shema. That kept them from falling all the way.
Right. They spoke in Hebrew. Samashma from the Torah that every time the Eibishter spoke to Moshe, Moshe spoke to the Yidden, it was on that language. It was exactly this language. This was bidiyuk the words. This is bidiyuk the words.
Why does it say let my brother speak? Because something
Okay,
was
so he didn't. He was hard for him to speak.
That was the list.
It was. He had a problem. Okay.
it was with the snare.
So the people that would have had the easiest time making a laning didn't have Svarim to make a laning yet, because they were making the Svarim the laning was going to be made from.
Yes, exactly. In the middle of writing it. It's amazing. The Jews were in the desert. The Torah was being written as it's going along. Okay.
You're taking for presumption that the Chumash goes in order.
No, there is all the time Chazal say Emuk Demochim B'Torah. There is things here and there. Overall, there is an order in the Torah. Still, even in this parsha of Achrei, we'll talk about it in a few minutes. The Rashi says in one of the psukim, "Ein ze makom mishal mikra zeh," that this pasuk, if you read the whole Achrei, and the Rashi says the Gemara and Yuma mixes things up, and you have to know whatever. So in general, when the psukim are in order, here and there, Chazal said, "Oh, by the way, this came before this came before that." But in general, there is an order in the Torah. Unless you hear otherwise, you assume everything in the Torah is going in order. Okay, so what's the questions that Rebbe has in this Rashi? Number one, it's very cute to have two pshatim on one pasuk, but usually
You don't need it.
you don't need it. It's the pasuk is telling me A or B. Is it telling me that you should know what happened on Yom Kippur, or it's telling me shvach shalanan shaloi lov shalagdulase? It's very hard that one pasuk should tell me two things. Also, why would you think that it didn't do it on Yom Kippur? Like I said before, okay, taket's a chidush, like because he spoke. The Eibusha spoke to him on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, Beis Nisan, and Gimel Nisan, Yom Kippur 6 months later. But it says that Avodah should be in Yom Kippur. Why should he do it otherwise? Why would I even think otherwise? What's going on over here?
Why does it say it in other subjects, not only here?
What's the chiddush over here? What's the chiddush over here? Now, there is also. Okay, let's first talk about this. Okay, so the Rebbe's pshat bekitza is like this. This pasuk was said in Rosh Chodesh Nisan. The Eibush is talking to Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe is telling it to Aaron. Rosh Chodesh Nisan, Beis Nisan, Gimel Nisan. Okay. Then the pasuk finishes. Vayas kasher tziva Hashem es Moshe. Vayas, he didn't do it that day. He did it 6 months later. The same pasuk. It doesn't jive. Someone might come up along and say, pick up a child will pick up his hand and say, you know, I have a better shot for the pasuk. Maybe over here, Vayas means just like when they were in Egypt. And on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, Moshe told the Jews, you should take a sheep and tie it to your bed. When should you do it? On the 10th day of the month. The pasuk says, Vayelchu Vayasu. They went and they did. I mean, they did. They were told to do it 10 days later. They didn't do it today. They did it in 10 days. So Chazal said, when they heard from Moshe, they decided, we're doing it. Even though it's dangerous, the Egyptians... No. God said, we're doing it. Vayelchu Vayasu doesn't mean they did it. They decided to do it. And Hashem commanded them, and they said, we're going to do it. So therefore, the Eibishter counted that because they made such a resolution, they're going to do it as if they did it. That Hashem counted as if they did it. Machshava k'mais, Hashem said it. You would say here the same shot, maybe. That he heard the whole thing that Moshe Rabbeinu said, and Vayas, in his mind, he said, I'm going to do Bidiyuk, Zaktamento, as I'm told. And the Eibishter counted it as if because he decided he's going to do it, the Eibishter was Machshava k'maisa. Hashem counted as if he did it. You might think such a pshat. But what's wrong with that pshat? It's a good pshat. Rashi doesn't like it. Why does Rashi not like it? Because we see the pattern. It is about 12 times in the Torah it says Vayas. Rashi doesn't like to say that all 12 mean the same thing. Because Mamonasha, you say it once or you say it 613 times. Why are you saying it 12 times?
We use it that one time. We don't use
Why
it.
dafka here?
Why? So that's why we find the pattern. Every time Rashi says Vayas, he finds a different pshat. The first time it says Vayas, it's the best pshat. Vayelchu Vayasu, and also it makes sense there that the Jews were terrified; they were slaves, and Moshe even said to Pharaoh said, "Don't worry, make a celebration here in the land. You don't have to go to the desert." He said, "Hein toivus Mitzrayim nizbach v'lo yizkalunu." We're going to go and take the sheep that the Egyptians bow to the sheep. They hold it as a god, as a deity. We're going to slaughter it, and they're not going to stone us. They're for sure going to stone us. So the Jews are slaves for 210 years. And now they're told they should take the sheep, tie it to their bed. When the Egyptians are going to say, Maza, they should tell them, in 4 days, we're going to slaughter it. We're going to put the blood on the doorpost. And at midnight, we're going to eat the matzah. We're going. So you know what kind of courage they have to have? So the pasuk says, Vayelchu Vayasu. They went and they did, even though they didn't do it yet, but they decided they're going to do it. The Eibishter counted. Once we already said this chidush, once we already said the chidush, when a man decides to do a mitzvah, Hashem counts it as if he did it. The Torah doesn't have to tell you 613 times the same thing. Just like, for example, the Rebbe gives an example. It says, El Torah's Noach. Noach ish tzadik, lalamdech, shetel the same shel tzadikim ma'asem tovim. Once the Torah told you once, it didn't tell you, Ela Torah's Moshe, Moshe is tzadik. Ela Torah's Aaron, Aaron is tzadik. Ela Torah's David, David is tzadik. Ela Torah's Yisha, Yisha is tzadik. We don't have to repeat it 613 times. By the first tzaddik, we tell you, Ela Torah's Noach, Noach is tzadik. So you should know that a tzaddik, the Torah's is ma'asem tovim. Same thing here. We don't have to tell you 613 times. If I'm going to give you a mitzvah, it's hard to do, and you decide you're doing it, as soon as you decide to do it, it's done. Okay, we tell you once, I got the memo. You don't have to tell me the same thing 613 times. Because the pasuk says again, over here, by Aaron, it says again, Vayas kasher tziva Hashem es Moshe.
It would actually weaken it for everywhere else.
Right, exactly. That's what we find in the Shas, that when you, Binyanav, when a Torah says something once, it teaches me for the whole Torah. The Torah tells me the same thing twice. It's the opposite. It spoils it. It means it's only these two places, not everywhere else. Because if Torah tells it to me once, understand, you learn it from once to everywhere. Torah tells it to me twice. What do you think about the Torah tells it to me twice? So Rashi is learning every time it says Vayas, it means something else. What does a Vayas over here mean? Over here, Vayas means he literally did it. He literally did it. But even though it was 6 months later, and even though it's Yom Kippur, it's a little bit. But the question that's bothering now Rashi is that what's the chiddush? Obviously, Vayas he did. Well, what's the chiddush? So Rashi says two things. Number one, Osa kasei derazeh, and number two, he did it altruistically. He didn't do it all because I'm a big guy. What's the chiddush that he did kasei derazeh? Obviously, he did this say. There's a big chiddush. Just like when God told Moshe Rabbeinu how to build the Mishkan. And Moshe told Betzalel. Rashi says that Betzalel said, hey, wait a minute.
Doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense to build a kalim, and then who makes a door, who makes a table, chair, and then builds the house. You build a house, then you build a table and chairs. The Eibishter said, Moshe Rabbeinu said, Betzalel Betzel Kelayita. That how did you know? Really, that's what God told me. But you weren't there. How did you know? You're brilliant. That's really the way God told it. Same thing here. Obviously, when Hashem spoke to Moshe, Moshe is going to repeat it the way Hashem told it to him. The way it's written in the Torah is exactly the way Hashem told it to Moshe. Hashem says it to Moshe. Moshe says it to Aaron. Word for word, he doesn't add or take away a hairbreadth. Aaron was brilliant. Aaron understood also kesei that hazeh, that is kemosha amarti, ani amarti, that even though the psukim in Achrei Mos flow, but there's a few psukim that you have to cut and paste. Moshe Rabbeinu said it like this. Aaron heard it like this. But also kasei that hazeh, he did the seder that I, Rashi, earlier, that I explained to you, that even though the psukim say it in a certain order, you have to mix things around, like the Gemara. That's why we have the Gemara in Yuma that tells it and teaches it to us and proves it to us. Aaron right away understood, even though he heard it, the words of the Torah, the way Moshe said it, the way God said it, he also kasei that hazeh, he understood what the real seder was.
And maybe it wasn't his place to make a seder. Maybe it was the next person to also understand that it's supposed to be out of order. How did he know
he was brilliant, just like Betzalel. How Betzalel know? How did Aaron know? Because Aaron, just like how did the Gemara know? Because he thought and thought. He was a Jewish person. He was thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking until he figured out that even though it was said this way, but the order has to be mixed around a little.
But
this is high level. Like if I would have done it, it wouldn't have been okay.
Right.
It's not from a logical. This is from
it is logical. Level. If you look in the Gemara in Yuma, the Gemara is working on it and analyzes every pasuk and twists everything until the Gemara figures out the exact order of how the avodah of Yom Kippur is. So Aaron
knew Moshe Rabbeinu was telling me the way Hashem said it because he knows he has to say it the way it was given.
And Aaron,
but I know that Hashem wants me to give it. I don't know what Hashem's reasons for giving it that way, but this is the right way.
Yes, when there's a lot of times when you tell a story, Torah is written in a certain way. It is sometimes, there's an instruction book, a manual of instructions, and then there's a story book. Chas v'shalom, Torah is not stories. Torah is a lesson of life. A Torah is told like a story. It's like a story. We start Bereshis Bar Elokim, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. We're in Egypt. We're going out. Everything is told like a story. There is when you tell something like a story, and then when you have to break it down, and you have to give the manual of how to build the pieces. There's the picture of the nice, engine, and then there is, when you start going into how you break it down and you actually put screws. So sometimes you have to, when you tell the general story, you tell it in one way, and when you break it down, you tell it in another way.
In general, was Moshe more about the story, and Aaron was more about the manual?
Yeah, for sure. Moshe was telling it the way Hashem said it, word for word. He never.
And you see this in other cases also, where Aaron.
It's always, well, I don't know, everything really. The whole Torah Shabbat, you see it that way. That Moshe Rabbeinu says it in a certain way, and then the Gemara tells you, the Gemara puts it all together.
Rabbi with Noach, he said, Ish tzaddik haya b'dorotav. They have to say it, because what Rashi said on the spot, b'dorotav he was tzaddik, im haya b'dorotav.
Yeah, but that's a separate thing.
No,
but they're not talking about Dorotav. L'lamdach she'ika told the same shel tzaddikim
Toldotem.
ma'asim tovim. So we only say it once. We don't say it 100 times. Because once we said it by the first tzaddik, we know for every tzaddik.
But if he was in Avraham Avinu Dor, he wasn't tzaddik.
It's a separate thing.
But we don't say from Moshe Rabbeinu tzaddik.
But this thing that Ika told the same shel tzaddikim ma'asim tovim is by all tzaddikim. And we said it by the first tzaddik. So we say it by one guy. That's the way everyone is that way.
He said about Yosef as tzaddik also. He called him tzaddik.
Right? But we don't say again, Malamet she'ika told the same shel tzaddikim. And once we said it by Noach, we said it. Same thing here. When the Torah said Vayelchu Vayasu, that since they decided to do it, it's as if they did it. So we know every time a Jew has told a mitzvah and he decides he'll do it, it's as if he already did it. Machshava Toiva Kadosh Baruch Hu Mitzvah for the Ma'isa. Why did it say over here Vayas? So Rashi has two things. One is there's a chiddush. Vayas, he did it. He figured out the real way to do it. Like I said earlier in Rashi. Second thing he says. There's a second thing Rashi learns, because the truth is that Rebbe says that the pasuk would say Vayas came. Why does it say Vayas kasher tziva Hashem es Moshe? Could you say simple Vayas came? You could say Vayas came, and that would be good enough. Why does it say Vayas kasher tziva Hashem es Moshe? So therefore, Rashi is learning two limudim. Vayas means that he figured out how to do it. He did it exactly. And that was the way Rashi says before. And what does it mean? Kasher tziva Hashem es Moshe. Kasher tziva Hashem es Moshe means he didn't do it for his own glory. He did because the Eivisha said. There's two limudim. Vayas, right? Vayas and kasher tziva Hashem es Moshe. Now the Rebbe points out there's an unbelievable chiddush over here. There's three opinions. What did Aaron do? The Torah is Kohanim. There's the Orach Chaim HaKodesh, and then the way Rashi says it. The Orach Chaim says, as we read, that the pasuk is telling you, Shivche she'ayron sh'loyosa l'gdula l'snase la'osa hakoil l'kayim mitzvahs Hashem. He did everything to make mitzvahs Hashem. Okay, it can make sense. The Orach Chaim is like, why would you say one thing he did? The pasuk is teaching you he did everything for Hashem's glory. He didn't do anything for his glory. Everything he did was altruistic. Okay. But the Torah Kohanim is not. The Torah Kohanim says, "Shaloi hoyaloivsh begodim." When he put the begodim, it was altruistic. Only the begodim. And the Rambam says in Sefer HaMitzvahs, "Kvar bo besefrei," which is the Torah Kohanim, "Shein an loivsh begodim lo gedolosei, afol pi shehem betachlis hayofi shehem mezov shoyim v'yoshvei." Rashi is a third pshat. Rashi says, What's loiv shon? What's loiv shon? Which begodim are we talking about? What kind of begodim does Aaron wear? What kind of begodim does he wear in Yom Kippur? White. Simple white. So we have three pshat, and what does it mean?
The opposite. Zor v'ramaz al chet
Otazai.
Keeper is a
Right.
So don't go and remind you, hey, one second.
Right. Otazai. So we have, the Rebbe points out that we have three shittas here. We have the shitta of the Orach Chaim, who learns everything he did, not only the begodim, everything. There's the Toidas Koinim, the way that Rambam learns it. No, Shaloya Loivshan, but Shaloya Loivish Bigidei Zohov. The Big Day Zohov. There's once I saw in a magazine that there's one of these rich people in India. That's a dreiter, he doesn't have what to do with his money, so he made himself a beged, a shirt made out of pure gold. Pure gold.
But it's heavy.
It's either heavy or it'll melt off, one or the other.
A pure gold, a
That's
shirt, a shirt, a button shirt made sedreit. People are dying from hunger in the streets.
They have guys who have cars made out of gold.
And they put in diamonds also.
Yeah.
Sedreit.
This guy is not.
Sedreit. So, Aaron, more big days of, you think it was for his glory. So no, it wasn't for his glory. He did it altruistically. Okay.
The first thing he put on the outfit, they threw blood all over it.
No, the outfit always stayed very clean. The outfit is mechuyev to be clean. No,
It
that's
is-
on Adam, not before he put on the begodim. No way. The begodim have to be perfect clean.
I thought it was
We were learning in the middle of the winter how the Kohen Gadol was so careful when he put the blood on the thing, how he put his hand, that it should never go on his clothes.
Go down, not like we wash our hands.
So when he got sprayed with the blood, that was-
He never got sprayed on his begodim. No way. That begodim have to be clean
So how do you get sprayed?
like a whistle. Not on him. He sprayed on the.
Did they wear gloves?
I thought it
No,
was
chas v'shalom.
I thought it was thrown
No,
on
no
him.
sack,
By Moshe
no
on his.
No.
No mask.
Who says he was wearing the big de kahuna then?
No.
Who says he was wearing the big de kahuna then?
No mask either.
No, he was
When
wearing.
he first was inaugurated that day,
No,
blood
so,
on him.
so but it was first of all the blood wasn't on his god. It was
On his ear,
on his ear, on his hand, and his foot. Yeah, but that wasn't on his begodim. And no, the begodim had to be clean, perfect clean.
Huh.
The begodim are mechuyev to be perfect clean. That's why they were constantly recycling the begodim. They had all these extra begodim that they would use for the wicks because the begodim had to be clean. Bottom line, we have three opinions. What does it mean, shifcha shalanim? Todas Kohanim says shifcha shalanim is that everything was altruistic. All the avodah was altruistic. Second opinion is that the begodim, when he wore the big day zov, it was altruistic. And Rashi is when he wore the big day lovon, it was altruistic. Big day lovon, you buy it for $99.99. I mean, what's the big deal? No, it's not $99.99. Those begodim were probably nice begodim, but still. So the Rebbe says in Pshat, unbelievable, beautiful Pshat. The big day Zahov, what happened when a Kohen Gadol died? The big day Zahov went to the next Kohen Gadol. The big day Zahov wasn't buried.
No, avoid and you keep it forever you.
Oh, the avoid of Yom Kippur, whatever was used,
That's it.
one
One
time
time use.
one time used. So Aaron might say to himself, big days off, that's not for my glory. If I leave, next coin. It's not me. But because the Torah says that big day love and every year there have to be a new peer, you know why? Because this year I'm a special guy. Next year, my kedusha is so much bigger. So I need already a new peer. You know the story with the guy in the yeshiva. He came to Shadchan and they're trying to do shidduchim for him. And he's 26, 27, 28, 29. Can't make a shidduch. So the problem is that every girl, he says, no, this girl, I'm a great guy. I'm a big Talmid Chacham. Well, for me, this girl for me, this is not for me. Every girl is not good. He's great. So the Shadchan says, you know what? I don't want to work with you. For 6 months, you learn a little mussar. Maybe you'll get a little anava. And when you deflate the ball a little bit, come back to me. 6 months later, the boy comes back to Shadchan and he says, I'm ready. So the Shadchan asks the girl. He says, what? This girl? Are you crazy? You know my yichus? So Shadchan says, well, what happened? I thought you for 6 months
You learn.
you learned Musar, and he said, yeah.
That was about me.
If 6 months ago, before I was humble, this girl wasn't good enough for me. Now that I'm yuchas and I'm also humble, for sure this girl is not good enough for me. So-
Things never change. Yeah.
They look like they change, but they don't change. So what happened? You could say, so you could say that what happened that a year went by, and Aaron thinks that the reason the Eibushter said that every year you have to put new begodim is because every year his holiness is increasing, and that's his gedula. Big days of why would he think it's his gedula? Amen. Why would he think it's his gedula? It could go to the next Kohen Gadol also. But big day Lavan that every year you have to pick a new peer. So I might think such a thing. I might think. So no,
So the 11 will give more arrogance than the gold.
Yeah, that's
what's love Shama Rabbi, not love Shop.
it's for God because it's for
What
God.
happens to it? It
It
gets
used to
buried?
change in the same day, it changed 5 times. So
Yeah, but the Ikar Avodah was with Big Day Lovin because he started off the day Big Day Zov, then Big Day Lovin, then take it off the Big Day Lovin, and then back to
5
Big
times.
5 times because Zov Lovin, Zov Lovin, Zov.
So what happened
But-
with the Zav to the next coin if he's chubby and
Almost like
skinny?
the orange.
It grew up.
They make a
They-
new one for them.
They probably
No.
have to make. I don't know. Then they have
They
to.
use
Don't make-
You can't
Yeah,
use
they
it.
have
That
to
can
be
keep
the begodim have to be good size. I don't
Yeah,
know how
but
they.
I'm saying, let's go and use it, that's it.
Yeah, Big Day Lovin, that's it.
No, he's
1 year.
They love it. So no, but the
Big Day
Zav,
Zov.
Does
give
it
it
get
to the next
adjusted
one.
or?
what if the next one is skinny and he's chubby?
Yeah.
They put him on a diet.
No.
For such
The real
expensive
question is,
begodim,
what
we're
if
not
they're
gonna.
different height?
Yeah. No, that's
Said
not, that's
the
just
simple
Stipe was
law,
running
it's
the
a simple
business.
Zav, they give it to the next.
Yeah,
I don't say they make a
think
new
it's
one.
like, you know,
Different
like in
height,
the
big,
army,
small.
in the army you have a clothes, and then on the clothes you put what is it
Ring,
called?
ring.
The ranks. It doesn't matter if you're big or small. This is like the big
This is the
I tell you,
rank,
some
not the-
things,
not the
some
begodim.
things don't change that much. I don't know exactly. It's a good question.
Basically, it was
the
a
Choshen
robe.
HaMishpat
It was a robe and a pants. So
Oh,
Could
so
be.
it's more like a coat than
Could
just.
be,
like a
yeah. Also, could
robe,
be,
a robe and a pants.
and maybe they have to adjust. Say the chain. Say this guy is
That's
another
good.
30 pounds. So the chain of the thing. So you have to put in another another 2 inch, another 3 inches. Okay. So you have the Uman put in another 3
Yeah.
inches. Then he goes on a diet, the Kohen Gadol. He loses 30 pounds.
Yeah.
Okay, so then they take out a
So,
couple of things.
The linen gets buried.
Don't worry, he's not losing weight.
The linen can be thrown out. It's not
The limit have to must every
Don't
year
eat
have to put
problem.
new
just
ones.
like regular garbage.
No, they have to be buried. They have to be buried. So that's why
No Kohen ever lost weight.
no way. I know that's what
No,
Shmuel
just
said.
They all
After
meet.
they tell you to eat.
Oh,
They ate a lot of meat.
They
A
go
lot
out,
of
they used
meat.
to bring doctors to
I
heal
know.
the
Right.
I always said I wanted to open up a pharmacy across the street from the Harabayit. They had heart arteries,
They don't need nutrition.
cholesterol issues, circulatory issues, and they had to walk barefoot in Yerushalayim
Right.
on stone.
On stone, on cold stone. Yeah.
And if it was a heavy day of kabbanis, they ate a lot of the meat they ate. Wasn't fully cooked.
Right. Right.
That's even worse.
They had stomach issues as
Oh,
well.
what's
Yeah.
even more?
So you're gonna put up a pharmacy right across from the Harabais.
Next time when Mashiach comes, then we won't have those issues.
Oh, whatever.
No
Hopefully.
pharmacy when Mashiach comes?
There's gonna be money growing on
There'll be
trees.
pharmacy when Mashiach comes.
That's why I'm
So you will not have a
Change
job.
professions. So to summarize, so the Rebbe says, we see here that there's 3 opinions. What does it mean he did it altruistically? He did it altruistically in general, the whole Avodah Yom Kippur, or like that's the Orachaim HaKodesh. The Rambam says he did altruistic, that he put on the big day Zav altruistically, even though this is worth $1 million. He didn't say, oh, it's for my glory, it's for Hashem's glory. And the Rashi says altruistic was, where did we see he was altruistic is in the big day love, and even though they're not so expensive, because the Torah says every year you have to fit the Kohen Gadol every year with a brand new set. So Aaron could have said to himself, it's for my glory. So he said, no, he didn't. This shows you that everything he did was altruistic. He didn't do it for his glory. So I'm talking about changing clothing, and just we'll finish off with the story of the Rebbe Marash. Because the Rebbe Marash, we just had his birthday, Teferes and Beteferes, Lakat Tefillah Riber. There's brought in the story is brought by Rabbi Zevin in Sipurei Torah. There was a big chos, there was a chos at the Rebbe Marash, and he was a rich man. He was the last person. He left at the Yechidus after Yechidus, and Meshoris, the person that was working for the Rebbe Marash, was walking in the hallway, and he was bringing the Rebbe a new shirt, and he took out the old shirt. The Rebbe Marash took off his shirt, and he gave it to him to bring him a new shirt. So the Mishamish, who was not the highest IQ, tells the rich man, I don't understand. I gave him an hour ago a brand new shirt. He already changed his shirt and it's dripping. Look at this. Water is dripping on the floor. 1 hour. Look at this. So all of a sudden, the Rebbe Marash comes to the door of his room and he said, you can go home. I don't need your services anymore. But don't worry, I'll keep on paying you for your services, but you're talking too much. But the question you asked, the answer is simple. He said, can you imagine in an hour if you have to get dressed and undressed 50 times? It's exhausting. I get exhausted. So what does it mean you get to dress and undress 50 times? So Rabbi Zevin explained that when a tzaddik has to give an eitzah to a Jew,
He's sweating.
It's not like first, if you have to understand someone, you have to put on his clothing. You have to stand in his shoes, like they say. Person's telling you they have an issue, but you don't understand their issue. You have to go into them. You have to put on their machshava dibur ma'aseh. You have to get dressed in their lavusha nefesh, in the cloak of their soul, in their thoughts, in their thinking, in the way of thinking. Now you understand the problem. Okay, now that you understand the problem, so what's the solution? Now you have to get undressed from his clothing and get dressed in your own clothing. And now, as a Rebbe, you have to figure out what's the answer. In an hour, he could see 25 people, 30 people. That means he's 50, he's getting dressed, undressed.
Yeah.
That's what he meant. The 50, 60 times he's getting dressed and undressed in an hour. Well, obviously, if we're just taking off a shirt and pants, it's not that bad, 50 times in an hour. But when you're taking machshava dibur ma'aseh, you know what the machshava dibur ma'aseh, it's like so, it's intimate. The whole avushim of the neshama, you're getting into someone else's shoes to feel what that man's problem is. What is hurting that man? Not me. What's hurting that man? Let me feel his feelings. It's exhausting to go out of yourself to feel someone else. Then the trick is, once you feel someone else, okay, so you feel his pain and you know his dilemma. Okay, how are you supposed to help him? Just like he's confused, now you're confused. So now you have to get undressed and get dressed again in your own begodim, in your own machshava dibur ma'aseh, and now give the answer. And that's what the Rebbe was doing. Thursday night we had him for bringing in honor of Bezier for the shluchim. All the shluchim in New York under the organization called Chabad Youth Organization. Tziragut Chabad that Rebbe founded many years ago on Beis Iyur. That the Rabbi Groner was Fabringer from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Only shluchim from New York?
Only shluchim New York, yeah.
Oh, that's...
Yeah, it's something, it's a himmel de kazach. Tziragut Chabad is only New York. Yeah. So Rabbi Groner from Charlotte, they brought him to Fabring. He said 2 unbelievable stories about Yechidus. His father's job, really his father had a grueling job, because his father's job was to keep the Yechidus. His father's job was really to pull you out of the room. The Rebbe was being the nice guy. His father had the job of being the not so nice guy. Right. So, but he said 2 remarkable stories. He said there was a bocher that came for Yechidus. As soon as he walked in, he was so overtaken by emotion, he fainted. Physically fainted.
Mm-hmm.
The Rebbe had a buzzer under his desk. He buzzed in Rabbi Groner, and he said, "Someone needs your help." So he pulled the young man out, and he got people to revive him. In the meantime, he sent in the next guy for Yechidus. When the guy came back to himself, he asked Rabbi Groner, "I'm sorry, I fainted, but I lost my Yechidus. Can I please have my Yechidus now?" Rabbi Groner said, "What do you mean? You already had your Yechidus." What is Yechidus? Yechidus means that your neshama becomes one with the neshama of the tzaddik. Well, how could you have a better Yechidus? You had the best Yechidus in the world. Come back next year. And then he said it was his father's birthday. His father used to work in the Rebbe's office like 3 hours a day. Father worked for hours. His father worked for many hours. So it was his birthday, and his father was sitting, and you see there's the Rebbe's desk. When you go into the Rebbe's room now, you see there's the desk, and in the side of the desk, there's a round table. I never knew this. The Rebbe never sat at the desk besides Yechidus. All day when the Rebbe sat, he moved his chair to the round table. He used to learn on the round table. And when it was time for Yechidus, he used to he used to move his chair to his desk. And he says, just like before the Maimah, that Rebbe had a certain way he used to fix his beard. It's a himmel de kazach. He used to, with his hand, always before the Maimah, the Rebbe used to straighten out his beard. And then the Rebbe used to like look at the window, like he's looking out to the sky. And the Rebbe used to say Tehillim. The Rebbe was like getting ready for the Yechidus. So he said his father was sitting at the, working as every day. And all of a sudden the Rebbe says, oh, today's your birthday, right? He says, yeah. The Rebbe asked, you already wrote your note for Yechidus? He said, yeah, I have it in my pocket. So the Rebbe says, well, have now your Yechidus. The Rebbe moved his chair from the round table to the desk, straightened out his beard, looked out at the window, and put out his hand for the note. A man is working in the Rebbe's room for at least 3 to 4 hours every day for 42 years. Whatever, what do you need? It's a birthday, happy birthday. Have a sweet, nice year. No. The Rebbe asked him, do you have your note ready? And he said, yeah. The Rebbe moved his chair, straightened out his beard, looked out the window, did the same, took the note, 2-3 minutes. Look, the Rebbe had a thing, he would look at the note, nanoseconds. And the Rebbe spoke to him, 2-3 minutes. The Rebbe moved his chair back to his table, back to business.
Was two tables there in his room?
Yeah, go down, you'll see.
When I was in Yechidus, there's one table here.
You didn't
It
notice.
says here.
You didn't notice. Go today, you'll
We
see.
were
It's
checking.
exactly. Now, if you go, you didn't notice. The other table is almost touching this table, so you don't notice it's two tables.
It's still
There's
there.
a desk and there's a round table.
So
You'll
far, it's
see.
still there.
It's there. It's there.
So far, it's still there.
Mashiach will come. It'll still be there. Mashiach is coming tomorrow. He'll coming today and we'll be there tomorrow.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Everything is out already.
So, okay, let's make the scene right now. So that's Poshet is begodim, velovash begodim acherim.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Sorry, I thought it was called Iber when you join in the Shama of Sadig.
Ibur. That's something else. There's Yechidus and there's Ibur. Ibur means when you in the tzaddik here.